You know, here on CoastLife, we're all on Delmarva, but a lot of people come from different places. We've got a lot of retirees that move down here, people that just move from all over the place because the coast is so great and a wonderful place to live. But that creates sort of a mix of people that have different terms and different colloquialisms and things that they say. And sometimes, you know, one person will say something to another and that person's like, that's not what we call it here.
Yeah, and as somebody who has lived in Delaware, like I've lived in Delaware my whole life, and so there's definitely some things where, like, I've said something and people are like, what? And I'm like, what do you mean what? That's what it is. And people are like, no. And I'm like, oh. And it was very jarring when that happened for the first time because I was like, no, everybody knows, because I just hadn't met a whole lot of people far out of the state. And we started talking about colloquialisms because we also started talking about really like the Mandela effect, when like you think something is true and then you look it up later and it's not. And this happened to me years ago with water ice. And I was like, I would have sworn on my life that Rita's Italian ice was called Rita's water ice, and I would have been wrong.
Definitely 100%.
Would not have made it out of that conversation because it's been Rita's Italian ice apparently my whole life. But water ice is, like, I guess, a Delaware into Philly thing.
Yeah, it's not a term I had heard till I lived here.
Yeah.
So it's not the way I would have said it. And I've lived in a number of places.
You've lived around, right?
I've been around. So we want to go through a couple of the different versions, though. So we've got this one off the top.
Water
I think
ice.
that makes a ton of sense. Obviously, down here, we call it the coast. If you go up to Jersey, they call it the shore. If you mix those two things up, people will get very perturbed.
If you said you were going to Rehoboth Beach and you called it the shore, there would be fights. The fisticuffs would ensue because people would be like, it's the beach, not the shore.
Here's one my wife introduced me to in Wisconsin. Now, I've always said, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. In Wisconsin, her family all says horse apiece, which I guess means the same thing.
Does it?
I've never heard that. She said that to me one day, and I was like, excuse me, what now? Well, you're going to into my good ear? Because that doesn't make any sense to me. Other things in different places, up in Maine, they use the term wicked a lot. I used to go to a place where you could get the wicked good t-shirt and the wicked good hamburger. In Alaska, we called the continental United States the lower 48.
I mean, I guess it's sort of like how we always called slower lower, or lower slower down here.
Soda's a big one. You got soda, pop, Coke.
I've never said pop in my life, and I feel like it would sound so unnatural coming out of my mouth. If I was like, can I get a pop, please? I would be like,
I typically say soda, but I've gone with pop plenty of times in my life. Yeah, way more. Unless I'm getting an actual Coca-Cola, I never say Coke. And I know there's entire regions where that's just
soda.
The stand-in for soda. This was a good one because Kendall Gordon, our field correspondent, we were talking about sandwiches, and you've got hoagies, subs, heroes, and then specifically a Philly term, apparently. She looked this up, is Zepp.
I had also never heard Zepp, and I mean, I've spent time in and around Philly. I love Philly. Never heard that one. And I mean, she said too, like Norristown, PA as well. So that one's a hyper specific one. And I was trying to think, like, other things did pop into my brain of like Delaware staples, like Scrapple is one that you find like into Lancaster maybe, but I've met lots of people that are like, what is Scrapple? And then it's hard.
I'd never heard of it.
And it's hard to describe it because, like, when you describe it, it also doesn't sound appetizing. But you're like, no, I promise, I swear it's good.
I swear it's good.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so fascinating to me. I mean, I love this kind of stuff: words, linguistics, even just sort of like why certain areas have certain foods and culture. And I think because we had a lot of that sort of Dutch, Polish settlers, like pierogies or something that not everybody's had. And I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, because they're great.
Because they're amazing.
Here's one more that I've learned on my travels. This is more Midwest related, but in Minnesota, they don't play duck, duck, goose. They play duck, duck, gray duck. And if you look at a map of the country, it's the only state that does it that way. Like everywhere else does duck, duck, goose.
That's
Minnesota,
so
they do duck, duck, gray duck, and
I can't. I would mix it up right. I'd be like, Grey Goose.
That's a different game.
That's a different game. Duck, Duck, Grey Goose is the college version. Yeah, Duck, Duck, Grey Duck does not roll off the tongue.
It's not as easy to say. But so we do want to hear from you guys. Are there any terms that you use that you've found other people just didn't know what you were talking about, or terms from maybe your childhood if you were from somewhere else that you brought with you. We want to get a nice running list here of the different colloquialisms that just they don't necessarily cross regions all the time.
Well, we'll go ahead and give you a second to do that. Chime into the conversation. We always love hearing from you because it's your show too. But coming up on CoastLife this weekend, Jeep Fest is headed to town. Coming up next, we're headed to Ocean City to talk about it.